Firstly, who does what? Who set up the controls? The public authorities, but also the producers and the group of producers. What is the best control system? It can be either public and private control system. Private control system can deal with internal market and international markets. There are 3 levels of controls in GI system. First of all, a self-control or auto-control by producers themselves and operators of the chain if possible. Second level will be the internal control that can be made by the group of producers regularly. Third level of control is the external control, which consists in the checking up of internal control by the group of producers and also the auto-control. In this slide, you have the illustration of the organization of GI controls. At the bottom, we have the first step, the stakeholders, that can be producers, processors, exporters, whoever. They will provide auto-controls. The second level is the level of internal control, which is not compulsory, all depends on the legal framework. This internal control can be implemented by GI association or GI group of producers. The third level of control will be the external control, which is mainly provided by certification body or sometimes also by public organizations. At the top of this scheme, we have the supervision of the control by public body that can be or public authorization or accreditation when it comes to certification process. Speaking about external controls may be carried out by different types of actors. We have, first of all, the public authorities of controls that will need a specific competency in this matter. We have also certificate or private organisms, but which have to be competent for the product covered by the scheme. We have other types also of organizations that are specialized in control on quality of the product, like technical team or technical commissions. How can we choose the control body? When the regulation foresees the intervention of a certification body, such body must be accredited by an internationally recognized body like ISO 17065 and selected during the drafting of the specifications to ensure the enforcement of the content thereof. The GI group must ensure its ability to support producers. The controls are not only used to verify the compliance with the specification, they must be also a part of a global approach to progress of the value chain. In relation to the principle of authorization or accreditation of the certification body, the qualification or the competency of the organization will be checked. It means regarding the control process, the kind of product control, and also the system controlled. The independence of the organization is important regarding monitoring and enforcing the control system. This will allow for the prevention of fraud and negative consequences of the GI concerned. Here you have an accreditation certificate. This example concerns Bureau Veritas certification in France. In France we have the COFRAC, which is the accredited body that will allow certification body to implement certification procedures under the GI schemes. You will see that in the content of the certificate and the accreditation certificate, they are allowed to provide activities for the certification of products. The control plan shall contain several types of information. We need to have a reference to the product specification. We need also to define the scope of application of the plan of controls. We need to explain the organization of controls in terms of the staff involved on the certification and also the procedure to enable the stakeholders to be certified. The control plan shall also define the modalities of control. For each checkpoint, you need to know what type of control you will have to implement: auto controls and/or internal controls and/or external controls. At least, we need to explain the treatment of failures to comply. In terms of information to provide to the certification body, the applicants shall provide some information about the contact, the address, and the existence of other certifications. Also, some information concerning the production shall be provided, like plant production, animal production, processing activity, storage places, placing product on the market. All depends on the content of the specification. In any case, there will be for each producer a first certification audit that will enable them to use the GI. Let's see some example of plant production records. We need a form of register which is kept available to the control authorities or bodies at all times. This record shall provide at least the following information. As regard to the use of fertilizer, date of application, type and amount of fertilizer, parcel concerned as well. As regard to the use of plant protection product, reason and date of treatment, type of product, method of treatment. As regard purchase of farm inputs, we need the date, the type, the amount of the purchased product, and sometimes also the labeling. As regard to the harvest, we need the date, the type, and amount of organic or conversion crop production, for instance. This will secure the traceability. About the organoleptic test, they are not compulsory. They should be implemented only if it is relevant and if there are some specific product conditions defined within the specifications. In addition, if you want to have organoleptic test, you can implement a panel, a testing panel, and there's a need to have a competent panel. In this slide, you will have an illustration of organoleptic test report for the Jamaican jerk, which is a special sauce recognized as a GI in Jamaica. So you see that you have the name of the panelist, you see the type of product, jerk seasoning, jerk sauce, an ID code in order to identify the loads, and the decision of the panelist. Yes, no, and no, you can try again. If we follow up with the organoleptic test in link with the Jamaican jerk, you have an organoleptic test checklist that is given to the panelists that will help them to take the decision in relation to the acceptance or not of the product as a GI product. So let's see now some checkpoints for the GI association when the GI association is controlled by an external body. As point to master, you can have the general and documentary organization. As checkpoints, you have, for instance, the respect of the general conditions of certification. It means commitment of the stakeholders, management of new applications. What can be the method of controls? It will be an exam and a follow-up of the status and internal regulation of the geographical indication group. Organization and management rules as well. Agreement on the certification by the certification body. Accession agreements can also be checked. Another checkpoint will be documents managed by the group of producers. There will be monitoring and follow-up of officials' documents, quality control documents, and documents coming from the certification body, like procedure, for instance. Also, the GI association shall have an updated list of authorized operators or stakeholders that will use the geographical indication. Let's see another checkpoint of the GI association in link with the training and the information of the producers. The certification body will control the dissemination of quality documents by the association to the producers. So they will verify the dissemination of informatic documents, registration documents, traceability documents, and sometimes also some trainings. In addition, they can also check the qualification of the staff that is used within the GI association to implement internal controls. In this case, the external control will check the competency of internal controllers. Let's see now how can we read a control plan. Generally speaking, a control plan is built around three main parts. The first part will be the criteria defined on the product specification and the point to master. Then we will have all the monitoring plan, which action we will implement in order to check the point to master or to check if the criteria comply with the product specification. Who is responsible for the control, how many times a year, and what can be the corrective action. At the end, we will have the way to check, meaning with documents, visually speaking, on the ground. In this slide, you have an example of the implementation of control plan. We take the example of Clémentine de Corse, certified by the certification body CarIPI. We take a point of the specification that concerns the size of the clementines within GI system. If you check the characteristic of the specification, only size 1 to 5 are selected for certification as PGI. You have then the definition of each size. Qualitative objective is the elimination of larger fruits or smaller fruits in order to maintain the image of Corsican clementine because they are small fruits. Speaking about the associated control plan, the point to master will be called references diameters size 1 to 5. The target value will be the size of the clementines. How do we implement the control? First of all, as preventive action, we will have the information of all the staff of the station to manage and to check the size continuously. Secondly, at level of auto control, there will be visual control of fruits when they come at the station. In terms of internal control, there will be a visual control as well by the GI group of producers called APRODEC, and 2 times per campaign. At least will we have external monitoring action, which is visual and documentary control of certifiable fruits, 1 time a year by external auditor, which is CarIPI. In this slide, you have an example of check-in list for the PGI Clémentine de Corse. In this check-in list, you will have some different information depending on the specification. You need to identify the producer, but you need also to identify every check-in point linked with the implementation of the specification. In this case, it will be the control of the type of fruit which is covered under the PGI system. GI certification. GI certification is not compulsory. All depend on the existing legal framework. Certificates are issued by the certification body for compliant products and producers on the basis of the test result and the audit results. As conclusion, in order to implement good GI control system, you need to check the adequacy between the product and its markets. The producers group must lead the development of the control system. The certification body is not the leader in the implementation of the GI controls. Building a strong relationship between the producers and the certification body is also important. And as a matter of continuously progress initiative, producer and group of producers shall remain awake in order to remain respectful to the specification.